All right, now we can move back to the interactive portion of our new garment modal. We want to make it so that by default it is not visible, but it will appear when we click on this button. So let's see how can we do that. And what we can start with is well, making it invisible to begin with. And we can actually do that with CSS. And this is, you've done this before, actually. So what we could do is visibility hidden. Now, it's gone. It's not there. Or at least it doesn't seem to be there. And we can add a modifier to make it visible. And you could set up a transition just like you had before. Now we need a way to add that modifier to the to add this modifier class. And so what we need is we need a piece of state that will track whether the modal is open or not. And instead of doing something like is form modal open, because then we're going to have more modals. That's going to be a pain. We can track the active modal, because there's only ever going to be one active modal at a time. So active modal, set active modal, use state, and the default value will be an empty string. So an empty string means no modal is active. How we can use this, we will need to use the active modal property to toggle the visibility of the ModalWithForm component. So we can go into ModalWithForm, and well, okay, first we'll need to pass it in, like active modal equals active modal, like so, and destructure it, active modal. Now here is the thing, here's what we'll do. We'll use a template literal to determine whether or not we should give this element the modal opened class. And to do that, you actually need to use curly braces with the template literal inside. And then we always want the modal class to be applied. But if active modal is true, then we want to apply the modal open class as well. Otherwise, just do an empty string. You could also use this syntax. This also works, although what it will do is it will, well, I'll show you what it will do. If it's false, it will actually give this element the class false, which is a little odd to see sometimes. What are we looking at? The modal. Well, I stand corrected. I feel like in at least some situations, this, maybe they even updated that. At one point in time, it would result in a class called false, because the return value of this, of a the AND operation is false. So maybe React did something to make that not happen anymore, which is quite nice. All right, so here, if active modal is an empty string, it will be considered falsy. So therefore, oh, but that's the other thing that we need. Active modal equals add garment. That's the other piece that I missed. So what this is now doing is, if active modal equals the string add garment, then we'll apply this class. So what we could do is to test this out, which is always a good idea to test out limited functionality before anything else. change that. Look, it appeared. Now it's not there. Random string, it's not there. So far it works. Now we just need a way to actually change this property when we need it to. And that would be this button here is what's supposed to do it. So to make this work, we need to call setActiveModal when this button gets pressed. And we could do that by passing the setter to the necessary component. So you could just do it like this. It's often it's common to actually rename handlers like this along the lines of on add button click or something like that, which you are welcome to do. On add button click, we pass that. Set active modal. Okay, then we go to the main component. Oh no, it's the header component. I'm in the wrong component completely. So let's or handle add click, maybe that's what I'll call it there, handle add click. And so the other thing that I'm forgetting here is this isn't going to be sufficient really. What we want to do is spell it correctly. We need to actually call this function and set it to a specific value. So what we could do here is declare the function here, and in this function we'll call setActiveModal and set it to add garment. Yeah, that seems like that's a pretty good idea. And then instead of passing setActiveModal, we can just pass this handle add click function there. And so that should do what we want it to do. And here we are in the header, not main, header. And we need to destructure that. Using whatever I decided to call it. Next, how do we make it fire when we click the button? One thing, I forgot to give type equals button, so I should do that. But to have a function fire, when you click it, you use the onClick property. And you can just pass that the handler. Look, it works. That's great. All right. So that's the first bit of interactivity that we have in this page, really. Next bit would be making it close. So to make it close, we can just set the active modal property back to an empty string. So that will work. Now, one way that we could do this is by defining a function that closes all the modals. We could just call it. It'll close all the modals because it'll close any modal that happens to be open. We don't have to worry about which modal is open, which is very convenient. So close modal, you could say close modal, close active modal. That actually seems like a good way to phrase it. And we just do set active modal to empty string. And we need to call this when the close button gets clicked. The close button is inside our ModalWithForm component, so we need to pass this to the ModalWithForm component. And modal with form. And yes, often maybe we would want to call this handle close click if you wanted to, in which case we would have to change how we are destructuring it. Handle close click. The most important thing is to recognize that it's this property that this value that you need to destructure. Then we can just do the same exact thing that we just did and give an on click handler to the button, handle close click, and now it closes. Look at that. Alright, in the next video we will work on getting the item modal to open and close, and there's an additional level of complexity to that. We'll deal with that then.